Hello guys, and welcome back to a new tutorial. Today I want to talk about a few different Vellum techniques. So first of all is here this little technique here. I think you can get away with this with some pretty cool shapes or open shapes, or of course you can close them and get some, I think, cool intricate details when you render that like a collision object like that, or you will render it like a sliced up geometry like that, so get this pretty cool collided shapes here. And the second one is a little maybe seaweed or coral plant. So just a simple flipbook and really simple animation, but I think you can do a lot with this kind of simple techniques, and we will start right now. So for the first one, it's pretty simple in my opinion. Let's re-enable the grid, and yeah, let's just start here. First of all, I drop down a geometry container, so press right click or tab and type geo, and you will get this geometry container, and with double click you can dive inside, and in that geometry container we will build up our simple little node tree. So first of all, I will place down a sphere here as a polygon, and let me enable that. And we want to get cellular spheres. So with that kind of example here, you see we've got cellular spheres in a different distribution here, and I achieved that with copy to points and a scatter node and a randomize, and that's pretty easy. So for the base shape you can use everything you want, so I will just use this sphere here, and I will extrude it a little bit in different directions. I will end up with something like that. You can dial up the frequency a little bit, and after that I will use a scatter node. The scatter node will place points on the surface, on the polygons, and we'll end up with these points here. I will make them a little bit bigger so you can see them better. Now we want to copy on each single point, we want to copy another sphere, and that's pretty easy. We can use the node copy to points, and we'll just use that sphere and reset the radius and maybe the frequency to 4, and we will copy that onto here. And of course now that's for now too much spheres, so we can dial it down to maybe 25 or 5. I will start with 5 and we can dial it up later. And you see the current sphere scale is pretty normalized, so every sphere got the same scale, and we can change that with a simple attribute randomize node, or we can do it with wax or with wops. Let's use it p scale. We'll just use the attribute randomize for now, p scale. And now you can see maybe a problem. We've got this little tiny sphere here, and we will do another kind of distribution here, so we will choose custom ramp. And now we can dial up this left value, and of course this is a one-dimensional, so basically a float value, and we can adjust the global seed, for example, to get something like this. Of course you can play with the ramp here and get some more points. That's fully up to you. Play with the global seed, so I will use something like that. And now we want to create there are several ways to let them collide. You can just use a cloth, you can use a soft body, a Vellum soft body, Vellum balloon, that's fully up to you. I will use a Vellum configure balloon for now, because you can do a lot of cool things with the pressure attribute, so you can play with the rest length over time, for example. So the cloth will initialize the surface constraints here, and the pressure will initialize, let me just visualize them, the pressure constraints. After that we will need of course a Vellum solver, so VS Vellum solver, and place down the Vellum solver, connect it, and now we've got our Vellum solver and our basically our balloons or little spheres will fall down. We can, for example, place down a ground position here, -3, well, -4, because they are currently still affected by gravity, and you can see they will fall and bounce on the ground. Of course you can use something like that too. It's a pretty cool effect for kind of motion, kind of clip or category, or you can use it in VFX, so there are several ways to use, for example, bouncing balloons. And of course you can manipulate them further on. But currently I don't want a ground position and I don't want force. So disable the gravity here, and now when we play the simulation nothing will happen because we got no force in here. Let me dial up the frequency to 5 here and substeps to 2, and the collision passes to 15. And I think, of course, you can play with the rest length scale. So, for example, oh wait, not here. We will do that on the on the pressure. For example, 0.8, and you will see the balloons will contract, and you can use that $T. So you can do a variety of things with that. So they will expand over time, I think. Yeah, when the rest length scale is over 1, so let me just delete this channel here. 1.1. You can see they expanded a little bit. And you can use 2, and they will expand even more. So you can animate that, of course, so that's a pretty cool effect if they like pop up, and you can use that with a kind of guide geometry, so like a collision geometry, so you can pop them up inside of a sphere or a sneaker, another kind of object, and they will fill out basically the form. But I will go back here to 1, so we don't need rest length currently, and I will dive inside the Vellum solver and I will create a pop force in here. We will use the pop attract, and we will attract our spheres to a specific point or to a specific goal, and you can see they will collide and get these bumps in here and start colliding and create other collision shapes. And of course you can dial it up, maybe to 2. And now we want more points, so for example let's use 25 for now, and I will increase the radius a little bit here. And we will start again here. and it will collide. Or what we can do, let's just get this shape here, and I will flatten it a little bit, something like that. And then we can let them collide again. And let's bump the force a little bit up. So like 3 or 4, that's fully up to you, or you can even change it over time. For example, something like that. And I think that's also, yeah, a pretty handy effect, so you can manipulate it, introduce other forces, custom force field, pop axis force, pop wind, and so on. Now we just clip them. So clip, and you can use that direction, or you can use other direction, but I will use that direction here. And of course what you can do, you can do that animated if you want to. I think that's pretty cool too, if you animate this kind of clipping effect. And after that you can process like how I did it with a loop and a poly extrude, but you can also do a Vellum post process, and you can extrude by thickness, and you can then subdivide it, or you can do it with a loop. That's fully up to you. And you will get this yeah, pretty cool shapes, and it really reminds me of like maybe bacteria or like organic cells. You can use blur, for example, to blur it a little bit out, but I think in this case a smooth would be a little bit better. Yeah, smooth will do a better job. And we can do now 7 here. Whoops. So we got a little bit more geometry to play with. What you also can do, you can just subdivide it before the Vellum post process and then apply the thicken or the extrude by thickness. That's fully up to you. So they will collide now. And you can just use cloth for that, or a soft body, the configure Vellum configure soft body. That one here with the little teddy as a symbol. And you can play with different rest lengths and so on. And of course you can play with the clip, with the direction. So you can clip it like that, for example. And what I want to do, let's get 50 of them. And we will simulate them now to collide. And after that I will show you the simple yeah, underwater or seaweed coral thing. Okay, cool. They will collide here. And of course you can introduce like a time scale and play with a time shift for a cool slow motion effect. 1 and 0. We can pipe that into the smooth, and we can pipe that into the Vellum post process. or we can use that one here. So that's fully up to you. You see there are a little some intersections, so what you can do, you can just play with the global value, make it a little bit smaller. And we can simulate that again. And of course, after that you can render that in several ways. So like a cell with a subsurface scattering, or like a other kind of object with maybe metal or a custom shader. And I think you will end up with pretty cool results. Yeah, that's much better here. Yes, that's cool. And yeah, you will end up with something like that. Of course, you can dial up the collisions and the constraints iterations maybe a little bit, because currently there are still some intersections, but that's because they are initialized intersections here, and you can of course deal with them. Maybe delete the intersecting spheres, but I think that's a pretty cool result for. Of course, you can subdivide it, you can smooth it, you can VDB remesh it. That would be another approach. So you can yeah, VDB remesh it, or what I did here, I just did a simple poly extrude and a subdivide. And of course, when you VDB remesh that now, I think you will end up with a whole different kind of form or approach. Maybe smooth SDF, maybe smooth. And when you smooth the hell out of it, maybe 10. And convert that back. Convert VDB. Convert that back into polygons. Yeah, you will get these pretty cool connected anamorphic shapes here that look pretty cool. Okay, that's that, and that's that, and now we will play a little bit with our Seaweeds thing. So basically the Seaweed is I think pretty simple. It's a soft body with a little bit of extrusion and some attributes. So we will do two simulations. We will do a pop simulation, or you can place them manual, and after that we will do the Vellum simulation. So I will place down a circle here, and we need another orientation. So X, Y, Z. Let's get Z explain, and you can use, for example, polygons, but that really doesn't matter. Popnet. So we will create particles onto that, and I will scale it down a little bit, so 0.35 for example. And I think there's a viewport bug. Okay. I will dive inside. So basically I created a popnet, like a particle network, and now we will dive inside a particle network with double click. The source, we will change that to birth. We will go on the birth tab and type $ff == 1. So we only emit particles at the first frame. And for example, we use 10 particles now, and we will deactivate the constant activation and the constant birth rate. After that, we want to our particles go upwards, so I will get a wind velocity here and an amplitude, and now you can see our particles will dive up, and maybe we increase our amplitude a little bit, so that look fine to me. After that, we will use a trail. So the trail will connect every initial frame with a polygon, and you can just type in here trail length. You can type 240 and you will get these growing lines, or you can just type $fend, so you currently time scale or range. So when you type in here 480, it will adjust to a given time range. Cool. Let's reset that. Oh, snap keys, reset, and we'll go back to 240, and we will initialize maybe 20 for now. So impulse count of 20, and we can resimulate that, and you can see the cool growing lines, so you can already do something with that. After that, I want to you can do just a freeze, or you can use a time shift, and we want to freeze the frame, for example 240, so delete the channels, or you can use the frame 120 or 199, so that's fully up to you. The cool thing is, what we can do now, we can set different lengths for our initial baselines. There are several ways, so you can do it with what I usually do. I do a loop with carve and do like random stuff over the detail attribute. You can do that. You can use a really simple technique as a set length from the groom tools. So always remind yourself you can use like groom tools or many other tools in this kind of motion category, and you just press on randomize, and with the randomize you can set yourself different lengths. So that's with the groom tools or with the guide process, and that's without a guide process. Another cool thing is you can basically set like a shape. So if you want like a fall off like this, like a cap, or like a tapered cylinder, you can do that. You can do it with a custom attribute, or you can just place down mobs from the mobs tools, the fall off, the shape fall off. Let me get a shape fall off here, and we can pipe that in here, a spherical, and we can move that up. We can move that up and preview fall off, and we can remap it from 0 to 1 maybe. And now you can play with the range here, and with that kind of attribute, like a float fall off. So let me just hide all, and this is the fall off here. So with basically a range from 0.0 to 0.4, let me you can basically influence the length here, so you just pipe that into here, and then you will use the override. So now currently the max length guide attribute, and we can choose here, we will choose our mobs fall off, and then you can basically influence your falloff. So for example something like that, and then you can override them, of course, and the min value a little bit higher, and with that you will get like this tapered falloff from inner to outer radius. Cool. So we did that, and with this falloff we can now continue, for example. So we can use the resample, and with the resample we will enable the curve view attribute, and let's display the curve view attribute here, and the curve view is basically a value from 0 to 1, so I think we need to adjust the length here a little bit. And of course we can dial it a little bit more here. So adjusted the length, so we get a little bit more points here. So 0.05 should do the job in my opinion. And of course now you can play with the falloff, with the inner outer scale. So maybe something like that. Cool. After that I want to dive into WOPs. So we will place down an attribute WOP, dive inside, and bind or import the curve view attribute, so curve view. And we will make a ramp to remap our curve view attribute. We'll make a multiply parameter and a bind export. We will pipe the curve view into the ramp. We will change the ramp distribution or type to a spline ramp. And we will pipe our parameter into the multiply, so we will multiply the outcoming value from the ramp with a global value. That's currently called param. You can call it like overall scale wire, for example, and we can pipe that out and call that one wire underscore scale. I will copy that and I will place down a polywire, and with the polywire we can get in here our wire scale and type in add wire scale, and you will see nothing because we don't got an overall scale and we don't changed our ramp here. And now that's fully up to you how you want to create your little plans. So you can make them thicker in the middle or thicker in the end. So maybe something like that. And of course divisions. Let's get 8 divisions here for now. And you can what you can do then, you can for example play with the shading with the curve view attributes. You can make it later in the rendering. If you render with Redshift or Octane or any kind of other render engine, Mantra, you can use the curve view attribute to specifically create like a color falloff over the plans here. So attribute delete, we'll pipe that in here, and with the, let me just check something, okay, with the attribute delete we will delete everything, so star except of curve view, and now we deleted some attributes here. And after that we need a group and I will call this group grp pin underscore pts for pinpoints, and make group type points. Of course, you can make the points procedural with the curve view attribute, for example, but I will do it just with a simple bounding box for now. And we will pinpoint or create a point group in the lower bottom direction of the plants. And after that, we will use the Vellum configure softbody, and we will pipe that in here, and we will use our pinpoint group. And now you can see here a little visualizer, like these spherical blue indicators, so these points are pinned. Cool. Vellum struts, and we're good to go with the Vellum solver. Vellum solver here. And now, when we simulate that, they will just fall down. Oh, yeah. We don't want that, so I will disable the gravity. I will change that to 0, and I will pipe the collision passes a little bit up, and of course the sub steps later. For a final simulation, you can do that. I will get down a pop attract and a pop wind. And a pop wind a little bit in the upper direction and a little bit of amplitude, and we can have a look at that. So we get a little, yeah, like swirly movement. And the pop attract you can use, for example, so that's number 4, X, Y, Z. You can use that for like a little guide thing, or if you want to get it XYZ free. If you want to let them follow like a stream, like a underwater stream, you can just get a pop attract like a goal, and yeah, the plant will bend into that direction, and you can do a pretty good art direction with that. And now, of course, you can pipe it up. So let me just adjust the min length here and the maximum length, and let's just get 100 of these. So we can resimulate that. Like that. And then you can play again with the length. But I think for the, let's get a scale a little bit bigger here, 6.5. Oops. And we will reset the simulation and pipe that through. Of course, you can make another attribute with a kind of a p-scale attribute, and you will then distribute the points, so you will not get too much of intersection, or you can just delete them. So let me simulate that here. And you can see that will work pretty easy. And of course now you can let that simulate through and make a cool shading, make an environment, and so on and so on. Of course you can now resolve the intersections a little bit, so you can just make a like a brute force approach and delete the intersected poly wires. And yeah, I think that are pretty cool, two pretty cool approaches. How you can create something like that. And here again for our little clipping kind of organic form. So you can try it out with the VDB from polygons. You will get pretty cool shapes here. Another thing what you can do after that, maybe play with a simulation after that. So pipe that into a simulation, because I think that's a really nice intricate shape. So you can play with that. Of course you can poly reduce it, and after the simulation you can point deform the high res geometry onto the low res geometry. And yeah, I think we are done for now. I hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next tutorial, or in the next course, or in my Patreon videos. Or I think there are currently 11 tutorials on Patreon, exclusive tutorials, and there will be 2 more in April, so I'm excited for that. And I hope you liked it, and take care, and I will see you. Bye.